It's another celebratory YouTube hop today, and it is Danni Vee's 4,000 subscriber hop, and that is amazing. So, yay Danni! Danni's done something a little bit different. Traditionally, one of these celebratory hops is to scrap lift the person whose hop it is, but Danni has made a little bingo board, and she has suggested that we choose 4 things because it's a 4,000 subscriber hop, but I think I could clean up most of them because these are all her favourite things to do and to use, and I'm pretty sure I can, if not all, then definitely most. But why stop there, right? Some of the girls are scrap lifting her, so I thought I'll do that too. I'll do all the things because you know I'm all about doing all the things. So this is a fairly recent layout of hers, and I'll link it in the description box. She has a YouTube video for that. The teacups and the tea theme is what drew me to this one because, you know, I love all this kind of girly teacuppy type stuff. And Danni showed very briefly sort of a kit she put together to scrapbook this layout, and I'm not sure whether she was going to scrapbook any others with it or not. But looking at the kit, I actually have a very similar kit to scrapbook a trip to an Alice in Wonderland exhibition. And there was also a high tea one of my sisters had a few years ago, and there's another high tea coming up this weekend. So I figured that kit can serve me for any number of projects, and I've had it in a box for several years and made layouts from it off and on, so it's just sitting there quite happily. It's quite similar to Danni's, but the colours are not going to work really well, these sort of really pretty colours that are in my kit. So because the photo that I'm going to use is this one. Yeah, I've turned off the autofocus, so holding it up to the camera is not going to make any difference, but it's a particular part of the exhibition, and there's the Mad Hatter and the March Hare having a tea party, and the March Hare's brandishing this great big knife, and they're in that prim style. I think it's called prim, where they look all kind of grungy and rusty and grubby looking. Yeah, so I don't feel that I have to scrapbook something in using the colours from the photo, which is just as well because I have a brown layout and I'm not really a big fan of brown. I could do similar colours to this, chuck it on, not that, and it would be fine, and it would probably bring out, it might look a little strange, but it would sort of tone down the brown. But I thought, what I did want to bring across that kind of creepy look, because part of the journaling, I'm hoping I can get the journaling into places where Danni's got these extra photos. Part of the journaling was a conversation I had with Max, and we both thought that the display was pretty creepy, but for different reasons. So I want to get that vibe across, but I don't want it to look really, really different from everything else that I've got from that day. So what got me thinking was, is there a sort of in-between option that I can tie this grungy look, which I really don't use, with this beautiful spring girly sort of look, which I do use a lot of? Is there something in the middle? Yes, there is. Thought I could use some of these relative history papers. Definitely one for the background, because it's got that sort of vintage vibe, but say this colour, it's already that sort of peachy colour is kind of bringing it together. So I'm going to have a think about the background. There's a lot here that I could use, and I could probably back the cut file with some, but I'll worry about that when I get to it. So anyway, here's my cut file. It's wider than Danni's, and my photo is landscape rather than portrait, but I should be able to tuck it in. Now this probably is going to be impossible to see. It says we're all mad here, which is going to feed into the first part of the journaling, how we were all grumpy by this point but for different reasons again. And I printed it on smooth, I cut it on the silhouette on smooth, the Basil Smoothies, I can't remember what colour it is, coconut swirl something, and I did that so that I could then come back in, and if I thought that was too stark, which I do think it is, come back in and go over it with something. And I've sort of been experimenting here, so I thought I'll start by going over the edge with the tattered rose I thought I could do the We're All Mad here in a different colour, maybe tea dye, or there is this VEE'S Glorious Day. It's a fairly sheer spray, so I'm wondering if I blast it in the middle while it's standing up and the cast off will sort of spread that way. It's a risk because then I'll have to cut it again. So I'm going to get back to doing this and then cut file backing time. Now, I just want to say one thing. I'm really sorry about the lighting. I'm experimenting with a different direction of light so there's no glare, but instead there's shadows. They're not in the position where I want them, but that's going to require a bit of taking a saw to the back of my desk to cut some grooves into it, which is fine. But for today, the lights are coming from the side, so I'll see how I go. This is not permanent. Thank you for putting up with it. Let's get the ink blending underway. Okay, I've got that vintage tattered rose around the edge. Then I did go in the middle with tea dye and I gave it a few blasts with the VEE'S and I'd mop it up and then I'd come back and I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens when I peel it off. That in order to get this to sort of have something in common with the other layouts from this event, there are certain supplies that I've used, and I've used little bits of the 2 Echo Park Alice in Wonderland collections, and I looked through it and there are quite a few that I think I can get to play with the relative history papers quite nicely, and I think using them to back the cut files, using a bit of both, I think that it's a place where they can all come together and sort of play nicely, and then when I bring in the embellies from Alice and some other things, it's not going to look out of place or anything. Okay, see, my desk's starting to look the way it normally looks. This is normally how I work. This is a random crepe paper one that I threw in because of the whole cards and all that kind of thing, and I thought that there might be a number 10 or a 7. There isn't, but there's hearts and 2s and things like that because it was for a wedding anniversary that we went to this. In my wedding album, every page somewhere had little stickers or die cuts or something with 10 and 7. So, I mean, everyone knows what the date is on that day, and the entire album is about the one day, but it's just a little detail. So there are papers from Relative Histories Romantique, from My Dearest Jane, and from Thoughtful Studio Sunset Kit. I mean, see what I mean with these? It works. I mean, look at that. How nice does that look? I'm back, and not only do I not have a freshly backed cut file, you may notice that this isn't exactly the same cut file. The last one, I decided that all the backgrounds, I wanted one of these pink ones from Romantique because it just, I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of, sometimes a paper just, it evokes a feeling that puts you back there. And anyway, I tried everything to darken up the cut file and it just kind of all fell apart. That's okay. I had another one cut. The only thing is that this one I cut as is. I didn't use an offset to remove these solid bits. So it's going to be slightly different. I'm going to try and trace out the same size and shape and stick it over the top and then back some of the empty areas. So I'll see how that goes. But I gave it a good scrub with Distress Oxide in Ground Espresso because I wanted it as dark as possible without being black. And it's not really even, but that's okay because that's kind of, I think that's a good thing rather than a bad thing. Now I just have to get on with doing the backing better. Alright, I'm going to try doing the teapot with that. I'm going to use a biro and do it on the back. Now I'm just going to do the body of the teapot. With some of the other things, the hat's going to be more complicated. and we'll see if this method works. So I know when I cut it out, I've got to cut it out right on the line. Yeah, because we're not sticking it, or just on to the inside of the line even. If you want to see the proper way of backing cut files, not putting something on the front because you're in damage control mode, watch this video of Danni's. She shows an example of how she does that. See, I could have just started the video again after I had messed up and pretend it never happened and just started with this, but I think it's quite valuable to, you know, share when things go wrong. Now that's okay there, just not convinced. Yeah, at the bottom it just needs to come off a little bit. Okay, this is where we're at so far. I've backed it. I've used all the 3 kits that I've got to work with. This bit so far is from the Sunset kit from my Thoughtful Studio, My Dearest Jane, a little bit of the Echo Park and a little bit of Romantique, and the background is Romantique. So I've got the photo. It's going to cover up a little bit of the cut file. That's okay. I think this one was printed bigger than the last one, and when I cut it, sorry, not printed, cut. When I cut this one, I hadn't even thought what photo to do, what story to tell. Yeah, none of that. It's not what I thought it would be. I'm hoping to use enough bright bits and pieces to make it play nicely with the layouts that come before and after, but I think the slightly grungy vibe that it's having is not a bad thing. I might even be able to move it over a little bit. Some bits of the cut file have broken. I even used vellum. So here I've started to tick off what I've used. Danni said 4. So I've got pink or mint. I've used pink in several places. Vellum here. Paper, pattern paper background. Yep. Cut file. Yes. I hadn't planned on stitching, but I still can. I thought, you know, maybe some kind of crazy stitching around the outside. What I do need to do is find some journaling cards or some kind of embellishment cards to go here and here. And the first thing I do need to do is find those journaling cards and get the journal. I've pulled out a bunch of embellies, die cuts and other bits and pieces here. Some of them are from my Thoughtful Studio. Some of them are from Maggie Holmes, quite a lot actually, because there were a couple of collections where she put bunnies in a lot of things, and some of them, I think this one is kind of gives off the vibe that, yeah. And I don't have too many other reasons to use bunnies, but anyway, I'm thinking if I get a journaling card, I can tuck it maybe under that, but sort of stick it like this. Since I don't need a title, put something there. I would like to pop this up, but the thought of putting tiny pop dots, which I do have underneath all those letters, is a little bit overwhelming, but I think it's going to win. So I might have to do that before I journal. Alright then, I have stitched all around the edges and spent forever applying teeny tiny little bits of foam squares to the back of this. The photo will need some probably on the side that's sitting flat. That's fine, that's easy enough to do. And once I know where that's going to go, I think I'm probably going to have to put this in place before I journal on it. And I might sort of slip that under a little bit. So I'm going to ink the edges. I know I haven't been inking anything else, but that's all been kind of taken care of with that ink around the, yeah, the inked cut file. Going to be a little bit weird because I'm going to start writing here and go this way, but it's Wonderland, so that's kind of why I thought the card would not be inappropriate or out of place. Let's see. if I put the photo like that, actually, yeah, I don't want it too close to the edge, but any closer in here I feel like it's encroaching on the title. I don't know. Regardless, I need to pull this up. Yeah, alright, well that's just going to be like that then. Fine. There it goes. I'm going to put something else up there, like an embellishment type something. Start writing and just see where it gets me. I'm going to sort out this photo first though. Make sure I don't cover any of my writing. Now let's have a look and see what else I can do. Now this bunny, he's a bit big, but he's definitely, I like the idea of them looking at each other, and being done in black, he kind of looks a bit burnt and creepy like these ones, because that's what the other part of the journaling was about. Let's see if I can get him under here. I'm going to have to commit now because it's tearing the paper. Now, what did I want to do with the key? On top or underneath? If it's going to sit on top, I have to put more adhesive on. At least I can move it where I want. Being a cut file and being a bit wibbly wobbly. I like the idea of putting this Mad Hatter's hat because it has the red band that I was trying to get the colours from. So I might pull that out. I'll use one of these. Just start sticking. I think small word stickers were on the... I like the ones about curiosity because I was very curious to see what was going to happen at the tea party. It was in an enclosed room, so nobody, you couldn't just sort of go, oh yeah, I want to, it's worth lining up for or not. But the boys were not so curious. Oh, this is that adventure quote, but it's quite little. It looks like it's on a book cover too. That's really cute. That could go somewhere. Maybe I should have put that instead of the creepy bunny. Could have them both. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, look at that. Huh. Well, I'll just sit that there right now. You know what? These flowers might actually be better than these because they do actually resemble those a lot more. Maybe I'll use that. Yeah, I think I'm going to allocate some of these stickers, the puffy stickers, simply because the slightly more realistic flowers are going to be a nod to this. And if I bring in this camera, whether or not I bring in the fob watch or whatever, the question is, am I going to journal extra here? Maybe. Sorry about the messy desk, girls. I know that that is probably giving a lot of you conniptions, but it's just part of my work process. Maybe one day I'll be neat. Now, this is not going to stick. This is going to need the power of glue dots. I have this card and I trimmed down quite a bit of the border, but I think if I squeeze it in there I should be able to get the rest of my writing down and then get the rest of the embellies so I can have something big up there and then figure out where to put the rest. checking this off. Puffy stickers, yes. Stitching, yes. Haven't done enamel dots yet. Tiny word stickers, yes. Ink splatters, not yet. That's what I'm about to do. So I'll put on some ink splatters. And I've got some pearls and these Maggie Holmes resin flowers from her first or second collection. This is going way back. And their own glue dots have failed on some of them, so they will need replacing. That's okay. We can do that. Now, I don't have 4 of them, so I'm just going to put one in the largest 3 clusters, not this guy, but I think the mist should come first. And if I'm not mistaken, this tarnished brass goes on a very similar sort of old antique gold kind of a colour. And the stitching is subtle, but it's there. It's just another detail. So I like that, and it's a different texture. So yeah, look, I like Danni's much better, but I don't hate mine. Okay, I think that's it. It's not quite what I imagined, but I'm not entirely unhappy with it, considering the fact that the goal was to kind of marry that sort of grungy style with girly style. So yeah, this is still a lot of brown for me, but it's definitely is a nod to the photo. So, and yeah, cutting file disasters aside, we got there in the end. So thanks for watching. Please do go and check out Danni, of course, and work your way through the hop, see what all the other girls have made. And also, I forgot to say it at the start, but this is part of Crystal Barrett's May I Scraplift You, because she's doing it every Saturday now that May's finished, and there's, you know, 2 or 3 other girls doing it too. So this, obviously being a scrap lift of Danni for her celebratory hop, is, you know, qualifies for that as well. So I will link all the information and details of the hops down there, and links to relative history and Thoughtful Studio and all that good stuff. So I probably won't have a blog post, but I will get some stills done. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!